closets, out on the streets.
In the midst of all the make-believe madness, the mock depravity, and the pseudo-sexual anarchists, Lou Reed is the real thing.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. Back again. New time slot, new review. Wednesday evening, maybe. Talking about Lou Reed, Transformer. One of my favorite records from the inspirational age of where David Bowie had a big hand in this record, Mick Ronson. Really, this was an age, I think, in the 70s that was really killer for music. And I think that Lou Reed, the original, one of the big artist coming out of New York and Brooklyn, born there in 1942. He wrote about the seedy underbelly of New York and really captured it through his sound. And he showcased this really animalistic side, I think, in his music. And I think Transformer is a really perfect display of that because it takes not only the really ugliness of his record, but it also shows a lot of beauty as well. And it's transposed, I think, incredibly well through his lyrical writing and through his musical backing as well.
In the midst of all the make-believe madness, the mock depravity, and the pseudo-sexual anarchists, Lou Reed is the real thing.
That talks about the seedy underbelly of New York, really captures it well, I think, in this cult favoritism of Transformer. I think it's transposed, as I said, very well, and it touches new heights with Reed through the beauty content, but also the way that it really can show this animalistic side. And the first track, Vicious, has these elements of distortion that kick Transformer off with a cowbell-ridden, very straightforward rock and roll track that shows these moments of guitars that blast in with distortion and show these very whirling punk elements that really take over the track and push it to a new height. I think this is where Reed makes the foundation for Transformer and can really showcase a heightened sense of ability in production. Reed has been able to showcase this sense of catchiness, but also a sense of danger in his music as well. And Vicious is a perfect combination of the two, where they can go kind of hand in hand and work really well together. Really, Vicious is a good send-off track, a good start to the madness that is Transformer. And on the other spectrum, where Reed showcases these moments of beauty, Perfect Day is a track that has these very gentle strings, and the stylish movement of Perfect Day kind of creates this slowdown of the really beautiful momentum. And I think that Reed did this on purpose, obviously, but I think that he does incredibly well in the production aspect. And David Bowie and Mick Ronson also had a hand in this, but I think the instrumentalists that Reed used and the way that he can really transfer his ideas through music is just incredible. It becomes this foundation for Reed to continue to use throughout Transformer, and eventually Reed is standing out for his songwriting ability and his storytelling style. And especially on Perfect Day, it's this takeaway of the real strength from Vicious, and it instead changes the direction a little bit and changes the tone into something that's a little more manageable and a little more approachable. And that's really showcased on the next track, Hanging Round, where it is almost abandoned and the sound becomes a more full rock and guitar heavy production. And it's almost this full circle that Reed continues to go in on Transformer, that he takes the highs and the lows at the same time, and he takes these very fast songs, and while nothing is at breakneck speed, he does show some serious rock and roll ability. And even on tracks like Perfect Day and New York Telephone Conversation, there are these moments where the album is very slowed and it instead becomes something a little more than just a rock album. And that's what follows on Hanging Round, a very rock heavy track, but instead it's pictured with this raging piano that Lou Reed uses over the chorus. And the chorus, of course, you keep hanging around me and I'm not so glad you found me. You're still doing things that I gave up years ago. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. And Reed's voice, I think, here, and his vocal production here is just, it's really iconic almost. And this is a track that I remember hearing at first that really stuck out to me as a feel-good track that kind of has its back demons. And I think that Lou Reed is is one of those people. It's a really good reflection of his artistic character in general. I think that really he makes feel good music, and for the most part though he does have a lot of demons with him, and it's these morphing styles where the piano is being played in succession into Perfect Day, then being played into Hanging Round, and it's this succession where Reed is kind of a maestro here and really able to form these very odd transitions, but they work incredibly well. And with a track like Perfect Day that has this very classical style of piano and strings behind it, to then Hanging Around, which has this focus on guitars and the drums, and every instrument here is very lively. I think that Reed is a good transitional artist, and I think that he makes the connections to other genres very well. And then, of course, following is Walk on the Wild Side, which combines both his very gentle style and his very aggressive rock style into one track, where the track is very slow, but Reed has these storytelling aspects that contain the very rough and jagged edges of New York. And I think that the way that he describes each person, whether through the drug abuse, the prostitution, I think that he does it in a way that's almost comedic. It kind of switches up the emotion of Transformer, and it really shows that he can touch into these really vivid ideas and touch with these people that are kind of almost the outcasts of a social group at that time. I think that Lou Reed can make an honest depiction of that through Walk on the Wild Side. I think he does that incredibly well, and with the bass line that is iconic and nearly everyone knows, it makes for a really killer track that makes sense why it was on radio and why it was a big hit, but at the same time it is this really dark and really disturbed track that explains these people's stories and what they have to go through every day. He explains their stories very well and does them justice. And then there's also the saxophone that he uses here that reminds me of Taxi Driver, and it's this very sullen street saxophone that you would hear at night, almost as the night is coming to an end and the day is almost beginning. It's this saxophone that's very reminiscent of Taxi Driver, I believe, in that time period. It adds a real colorfulness to the track at the end. And as I stated before, Transformer is a really progressive piece that taps into these really different tones through each track. And Satellite of Love is another track that really touches into another kind of unknown territory, almost relating to Perfect Day, but is almost more rock centered. It features some background vocals from David Bowie, who is of course a very legendary and always adapting artist. The way that their voices kind of come together, this real sense of duality behind, as Reed has a very gruff voice, but he can hit these notes. David Bowie as a vocal artist, he is one of the greatest of all time to me personally, but then seeing him hit these notes of really high measure on the background is just incredible. And it is the similar territory of Perfect Day, where the track is very beautiful on a very almost animalistic album, and I think that's really the title Transformer fits very well, as it's able to show that Lou Reed was able to transform into these different personas and transform into these different tones, not just on this album but through his career as well. I think that he managed to make these really immeasurable tracks that continue to live on even years after the release of the record, and Satellite of Love is one of those, Walk on the Wild Side is another. And I think that Reed gained a lot from having David Bowie help him produce this, and the backing vocals also from him. David Bowie is able to illustrate a sense of more humanity behind Reed, I think, and that really is a good kind of wrapping up of Transformer as well. It's this illustrative sense that takes Reed on Transformer and shows him in this very dark painted light as this anti-hero, but really I believe that his lyrics here and his musical styling is actually quite, not vicious, but quite beautiful, and I think it is very vicious on certain tracks, Vicious is included. Reed, I think, managed to kind of blend the lines of genre and kind of make this music a journey more than anything. And Reed has been an artist that I think is really talented in doing so, and of course working with someone like David Bowie McRonson, he had the talent behind him, he had the work behind him, but really the tools that he used, I think, only pushed him farther and farther. Thank you guys again for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you on Friday.
Are you happier as a brunette?
Are you happier as a schmuck?